It's always worked in the past. It's like, okay, where is it?
Okay.
We're live. Yeah, good. So we're on. And
Fantastic.
yeah, I'm so glad you can be here,
Thank
Jana.
you.
Obviously, we've been working together for a while, and I don't know why it took us so long to have this idea to do a joint conversation, because boy, can we talk
Can we talk?
about the things we love, and we've got so much in common. And so I
Yes.
thought then, it would be a shame not to, not to share with the world what we've learned on our journey together, I think. And so, right, let me introduce myself. First off, so my name's Rachel Kopinska Smith, and I'm a brand consultant based here actually in St Albans, near London, in the UK. And I work with businesses and business owners to help them, I guess, essentially fall back in love with marketing their business, or helping their teams fall back in love with the marketing their business and their agencies, by helping them get their authentic brand story straight. So being clear up front who they're here for and what they're here to do for them, and the purpose that is the key to engaging and sharing that with their audience. And so, Jana, we worked together in the last year, um, to help you get your authentic brand story straight, because, like for many, even though what you do comes so innately and naturally, that is then hard because it's so under your nose and it's so just built into you. It's
Yes.
hard to actually then communicate that to others in a way that is easy for them to understand. And so what you've taught me about interior design and what you do has really inspired me. So I thought we must have you on to share, your wisdom with my followers and my audience, and not least because I'm actually quite a visual person, and I like to think I'm quite creative and I'm quite creative led. And so the business you're in, interior design, and the not just any old interior design, there's a certain specialism within your interior design, I thought was really interesting, and I love it. So I thought we're going to go on and we're going to get you on to tell everyone about what you're here about. Now, look, I've got these flashy little captions that come up. This is all right, isn't it? We've got Jana. So your business, this is Jana Robinson, and Jana's business is called the Emerald Lounge, and you're based over in Essex, aren't you? Sort of North Essex, Saffron Walden.
Correct. So I live in Saffron Walden in Essex, which is about half an hour away from Cambridge. And I suppose the reason I got into the biophilic side of interior design is during the renovation of our family home, which was about 3 years ago, I wanted to capture all the lovely memories that me and the boys, and obviously as a family, we have experienced during the boys' upbringing. So whether it was me taking the boys to the Czech Republic to visit my parents, I would take them to places I used to play in the woods, the forest, building dens, and camping and fishing at lakes. And it was all those lovely moments, I suppose, that I wanted to capture, and I wanted to translate them into an interior. I'm thinking there's a job and a half to really how does one go about that. So I stuck with materials that I knew the best. Really, it was the wood, it was the colors, it was the textures really that we all see outside so much. And before I knew it, I was designing this house of ours without even knowing. What I'm doing is I'm designing it according to biophilic design elements. So this was very much driven on instinct. This is what I wanted to do. And then almost like halfway through the journey, I'm thinking, oh, there's a word for it.
Yeah. No, and so here it is. And I think that often happens. There's this kind of always a sense of realization with people that actually, oh, I'm onto something here, and this feels right, and it feels really natural. And actually, I'm finding this quite easy. No, nothing's easy, but it just comes naturally.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I think that is a really innate built-in skill that you can learn, but I think it's really powerful when people find that. And so then you're able then to center your gravity and your job and the hours in your day doing something that you just love and comes really naturally and
Completely.
innately to you. And so, I think there's a lot of people on the journey at the moment since COVID, hit, who have been stepping back and saying, actually, what am I doing? Am I doing what I love? What am
Yes.
I doing? Is this it? Till I'm 70? When are we going to retire? I don't know. Retirement age 70 is this it? And they're having this pivot or change, whether that's forced or on them or not. And I think there's a real drive and, trend towards going back to your point of authenticity and just discovering, what is it that makes you great? What is it that you can do really quite easily when others can't? Because if you can do something really well when others really find that quite difficult, then I think you're in business, right? It's called a business. And so you and your interior design business has really interested me. I know that I've always been in brand marketing and brand storytelling. When I was working at Butlins for the last 3 or 4 years I was there, I was actually sort of seconded into the operations team, the resort team, to help bring the brand, which usually sat within the marketing team, bring the brand to life on resort, and to help the team over there create that seamless journey from what we were pitching up front in our marketing to what actually the guests experienced in person. And so I was working with a lot of interior designers and architects and understanding this kind of really quite operational, formulaic, you know, um, industry and process. And I was trying to weave in a brand story that I knew at the end of the build, or at the end of when the the painters, decorators, and the builders and diggers had all gone. I knew that then when the guests arrive, their experience would be what we set out in our marketing, because there's nothing worse than sort of buying something and then getting it and it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
And so I was working with a lot of interior designers, and I just think you're complete wizards and magicians. And so I particularly like you, Jana, because I think personality-wise we're quite similar, but we also share some of the same sort of beliefs or things that we believe to be true in the world, and things that like get our goat. And after speaking to you, I kind of hadn't realised actually these were things that I believe to be true as well. Especially even as we speak, I've got 3 plasterers in the house, so we're going to be undergoing some renovations soon. But I wanted you to, and there was one thing we talked about which we have to bring up, was around this sort of nationwide generational challenge that so many of us have faced because of, I guess, what the media or what marketers have sort of forced us to believe, and that's around DIY. So we can talk about that. But I wanted you to be able to introduce yourself, and you've done that a bit already, in terms of that you're a biophilic interior designer, and that you grew up in the Czech Republic, surrounded by. It sounded like you didn't even, you went barefoot across these forests or something.
I mean, it really is just I think this specifically we grew up near the German border, so there's so many hills and mountains and forests, and the trees, they just grow and grow and grow. So it's the feeling of like, or like you go in there, you go, wow, can I really be here? I'm this is my playground.
Yeah.
And I just felt really privileged to be able to have that in my life.
Well, I think that's what makes you different, because it's not until you move to somewhere that isn't like that. So as lovely as Saffron Walden is, right?
Yes.
It's not these forests with the rolling hill. Well, it's lovely, but you've now found yourself in a slightly more urban or built up area. And so now, you set about helping yourselves and others bring nature indoors and to influence Mother Nature indoors. So let's talk about first. I think we should talk about, you can do it if you're B&Q. So sorry, B&Q. This is like a generic term now that the nation has adopted, but generations we've been told, haven't we, that you should just be able to do this yourself, right? And we've all had a go at cracking on with our interiors. And we've never thought about using an interior designer because that's just for the rich and famous, right? They're just, because aren't they really interior designers?
That is exactly it, Rachel.
Yeah. I don't think that. Put us right.
So I think what for years and years and years, what has happened is when you mention the word interior design, all you see is high-end, high-gloss finishes and loads of money spent on it, and white high-gloss kitchen units, which is all so impractical and so, I'm going to say it, fake, because what exactly is white outside? Naturally, nothing really. So, I mean, white has place in interiors. Don't get me wrong. There is absolutely need for white sometimes. But what I feel that the movement of You Can Do It When You Be Curate is it helped bridge the gap between the rich and famous and us ordinary people who wanted to also have this feeling of pride of, this is, I did that.
We aspired to. It was at Cribs, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And however, there are people who've been more successful than others when trying to do this themselves. And but there's, I think, what I do have to say is there's no better feeling than feeling of I did this.
Yes.
I did this, and no matter what the result is, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so
It's that
good.
ownership, isn't it?
It's the belief, it's the pride in your own abilities and achievements. And I think that's the culture has brought. How do you feel about it 2 weeks later? Perhaps it doesn't mean
and so that's where you come in. So what I like about you is, I mean, I think when we've worked together, we've understood that you're quite a collaborative person. You're a people person. You like working with people, and so you're not the type of interior. I mean, you can do it, if someone wants to, but you're not. Your way of working isn't just, oh, no, you stand away now. You stay out the way. Let me get on with this and do it without you, and then I'll do a big ta-da. Actually, your way of working is actually, let's work together and get a plan in place, and that you have all the tools and information you need, and then they still do it themselves, but they've had your help up front, which
absolutely
might cost a little bit more up front, but god damn, it saves a lot of money later. And I think divorce is a lot more expensive. I know from decorating with everyone's involved, and tensions can run high, can't they? But do you think the biggest fear, I guess what that does stop doing, that way of working where you help them up front and they implement it themselves, is sort of offsets that biggest fear I think people of our generation have had. And it's called changing rooms, right? Do you remember that TV show, Jana? Right. I do think perhaps it scared the living daylights out of most people. And
many people.
Right. So talk to us about what the wrong that you want to right, that changing rooms has brought about in our generation.
My stars, where do I even start? So changing rooms, I mean, God bless them. There was a lot of purple, not naming any specific interior designers, which is a color, for example, that is really quite really personal. So before you put a purple bedroom, purple living room out on telly to the nation, everybody will take a gasp and will not believe, oh my God, what circus is this? This isn't a natural color, and B, this is really quite scary. I can't have a room that is so overpowering. And there were some successes, I'm sure there were, and I'm sure people who've been featuring in these programs have loved the process, and I would love to find out how many people still live in
or they've gone over with the white.
And yes, then there was changing rooms on telly. When was it? 2 months ago, 3 months ago? I can't remember.
It came back, didn't it? Channel 5.
That's it. So I looked forward to it. I looked forward to the updated version. I looked forward to seeing inspirational designs that match where we are now, interiors that are more on our level now, where we live now. Didn't want any purple. I didn't want any. I'm not going to mention any details.
Yeah.
And I was really quite disappointed because this isn't interior design. I'm sure they are all really well respected interior designers there. However, I perhaps share the feeling of the other side. I know how much work goes behind the design, and knowing the client, and I'm sure they got to know the client very well, and I'm sure they delivered what the client asked for. However, I just felt disappointed.
Well, and so I guess you probably won. You're like, thanks, changing rooms. You've now just put
they just ruined
all of
the
us
whole
as interior
thing.
designers back now into this scary. You've scared everyone off. But and so, what do you? I mean, your tell us more about your specialism with interior design, and you call it biophilia, and it was something I wasn't familiar with. But God, there's a whole world out there. Loads of really quite high profile interior designers,
Yes.
Oliver Heath, the rest of them, who champion this biophilic interior design approach, which I think started in decades ago. But it's just coming to the fore now, and it's probably quite rightly, because I know one of your strong beliefs and values is that Mother Nature has great taste, and actually, and I guess if you can share as an interior designer, have a way of sharing your taste with your customers so that they know you like the same things that they like, then that's a good place to start, isn't it? Finding that commonality. And so you use almost Mother Nature to find that commonality and to to build those relationships. So tell us all about biophilia.
So let me put it out there. We are all biophiliacs. Every single one of us. We all love nature, okay? And we all need nature. And the invitation to explore the depths of woods, it's irresistible. We sort of have that built into our DNA. We want to keep going and keep exploring and keep looking. And it's that mystery about it. But I think what biophilic design really is, it incorporates natural elements into our spaces. Now, most of our spaces are manufactured spaces, and that's not just our homes, that's schools, that's offices, retirement homes, and we fill our homes with like 90 degrees. There are so many, like wherever you, doors, windows, sofas,
straight lines, very straight lines,
very straight, very linear. But when you look outside, can you see a straight line? Unless we've put it there. Everything is really quite organic. And so when you look at these spaces, you need to ask yourself, were these spaces designed with well-being in mind? And I think that is a very hot topic nowadays. And we all need spaces that helps us feel at ease, helps us regulate mood, helps us regulate our behavior, where we work better and feel better and recuperate quicker. So I think biophilic design is super important. And not only we got into a stage where it's not going to be much longer where from nice to have, it will be nice to have biophilically designed home. It will be needs to have. We need to have
it.
For our own sanity.
I think I agree. And the sort of the global climate crisis, I think, has probably accelerated a lot of that, because I mean, there's a belief I know around, the idea of, until we as humans are better connected with nature, we will never be in a fit state or in a good position to protect nature. Because I guess until, and so the more we, since the war, I know we have, it's a retreat. We've retreated to find safety and refuge indoors since the war. And so we built these big shopping centres, these big warehouses, these homes where we all lock ourselves in and we go out less. But then since COVID struck and we were forced to stay inside, we then actually oddly got outdoors more, didn't we? And so now we are all starting to realise the benefit of being outdoors, and that we feel better and that we have more energy then to do better work indoors if we've been outdoors. And so I think, the certainly the economic, benefits of biodiversity outdoors for us as humans, that we can work better and we can communicate better and be better versions of ourselves, I think is really important for us to help, find our role in helping, do our bit for the climate change and climate crisis. But so what do you do then, bringing that from this massive global issue all the way back down to you in your home? So I mean, essentially, is it just a couple of pot plants here and there, Jana? Is that what we're saying? Or is it the conservatory where you sit in the freezing cold, or is it just massive floor to ceiling bifold and then you're done because there's the outdoors right there? Is it like what is it?
Right.
What does it mean? Yeah.
Okay, so I think to get to the nitty gritty, you really need to sort of almost start analyzing what do we see outside. Okay, so it's the plants provide texture and movement. You've got various beautiful patterns that sit next to each other. They don't really argue, but they just really quite comfortable next to each other. Of course, daylight is a huge thing. Okay, so what really there's one more thing. Smell, that's it. Smell, that's what I wanted to talk about. Smell is huge. So what I do, for example, on my various walks, I purposefully look for branches that are covered in moss, and I bring that branch home. I've got one here next to me.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring the branch.
So that's what we can do.
Absolutely. So what happens then, obviously, with the central heating, it all dries up and it's all a bit crusty and crumbly. However, if you keep putting water on it, almost as if you were watering a plant, it gives off this beautiful woody smell.
Okay.
Bring your branch, bring your moss in, and create that little moment, that magic moment, and you will remember that walk that you found this branch on for the rest of your lives. So it's just having your eyes open to possibilities. So also, if you look at your landscape wherever you are, long views are obviously more inspiring and almost energizing than the shorter views. But when you look at the landscape, you will see various different lines, and it goes up and down, and that's what you can take that's what you can bring into your styling. So when you're styling your shelves, this is what you want. You want that undulating down. Okay, it's all really. It's all out there, and it's
the answers out there. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to look far. Yeah,
not really at all. And so when you're looking at for example, a layout of your room, your window is really important, because that is, if you can, it can't work all the time, but your furniture layout really needs to be centered around the window, because what you want is the views, if you are lucky enough to have a lovely view. Yeah. I've got a car park in front of my window, so hence I'm making most out of my my big garden. However, views, so the direct connection with the outside is, that's so quick, such a quick and easy trick to use.
And so what, I guess, who do you think is down for all this right stuff? Who do you find connects with this idea of bringing the outside inside more? Is it people who, how would people know that they're potentially going to like a biophilic approach? What sort of people are they?
I think people who used to spend a lot of time outdoors, or people who fancy the idea of spending a lot of time outdoors, yet we actually it's a statistic, we spend about 90% of our time indoors, and that is a huge number. So it is for people who recognize the energy the nature has on us, and how much invigorated we feel when we go outside, when we come back in, and the head is sorted, head is all calmed down, and we can crack on with the rest of our day. So it is for people who believe in the power of what's outside, and bring
quite outdoorsy people.
Outdoorsy, you said it occasionally. Really
so they might have dogs, or they're sporty, I guess.
Active people,
they're the people
absolutely.
They come alive outdoors.
Absolutely, they come alive outdoors. They want to keep that feeling going inside. And if you bring, it doesn't have to be full-on biophilic design. It can be just a sprinkling. It can be just, touches. It doesn't have to be full-on. You don't have to have wooden floors, wooden walls. You don't have to live in a hobbit hut.
Yeah,
it'd be lovely.
Hobbit house. Yeah. Oh, my husband would love a hobbit house. Yeah.
Just a little bit. Make sure that you've got you've got the basics, you've got the views, you're making most out of the views, you've got enough light coming into your rooms so that it controls your circadian rhythm. You've got the sounds, the smells, even the movement is really quite overlooked, because when you go outside, there is always something moving. There's that predictability of movement outside. So fish tanks indoors actually really are quite cool and useful, and they're mesmerizing.
Because they can distract the brain almost. And
that's exactly it. Yeah. So when you feel like your head is about to explode because you're so stressful, just a little fish tank on a desk or a plant.
Yeah, no, the upkeep of them is what worries me. So I know that I'm in the business of helping people get their authentic brand story straight, and the journey to that is for them to become conscious of what makes them special, unique, or authentic. What is deeply rooted in them and innate to them. And so I know that a lot of people start, especially when we're looking at then what does that mean for the identity of their brand or their look of their website, or I guess it's the same for what should that mean for our interior of our office or interior of our bedroom or whatever. I think it's hard for people to be able to articulate how to be themselves in the form of in interior design. That's where I guess you translate that for people. So how do you get to know someone's character and personality before you start recommending this and this? And
so this is really quite a straightforward process. I obviously have a few questions that I ask the clients, and what I really encourage is both sides. I would like the wife and the husband, partner. I would like to hear both of your opinions, and it is always the case that they are very different.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you marry, often your other half, it's the half you're not, and that's what makes you whole and makes you get. But of course, the challenge is, and this is why I come back to, divorce is very expensive. I think a lot more expensive than an interior designer. You need just invest up front, because it can really divide people, can't it? It's all down to the style. And how do you bring people together in a room who might have to share that space together without falling into that sort of no man's land of boring, generic? Because that's, I think, often we settle, don't we, for this kind of and because one doesn't like that and one likes that and one doesn't like that, and so you end up sort of meeting in the middle of no man's land. And so how do you help bring to life people's authenticity and their character and personality together in a room?
I think what I like to do, I instinctively split people into seasonal personalities, and they have sort of common ground somewhere along the way a little bit. So if I find somebody is really quite modern and likes the high contrast, likes the one-off piece, quite sculptural, and a wife, for example, is really quite down to earth and really is into more earthy tones and handmade goods. They are two very different things and two very different people. So what I tend to do is to use color to bring them together. So the earthy, very nature-driven client will like certain shades of color. But what that means that the other half is they will have to compromise along the way somewhere. But that means that I can almost introduce his colors into her. Into her style. So the color scheme really is then quite comprehensive, and it allows both people to love it.
Feel at home. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. We want your interior, I guess, to bring out the best in you.
Yes, completely. So there will be compromises made along the way. There always are. I have been so lucky so far to be working with people who just respect each other and respect the house and respect the profession as such, and they are just keen to get their place looking, not even better, but reflecting them.
Well, and so what impact does that have, or what feedback have you, what have you made a difference? Has it made a big difference, or is this just wallpaper, right?
It's not just wallpaper. So I just finished a lovely, gorgeous project for a young family, and they said that when they moved into the house, it was essentially a building site, and they had absolutely no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
It was an open place, and open spaces, as we know nowadays, perhaps are not as preferable as they used to be because we're working from home more and so on. So, but this had to stay as an open place. But what happened at the end? They said to me, it brought the family together. They knew what zone means what. There was a clear structure to each area of the room. There was clear storage for the toys. There was clear storage for that. There was a clear corner for gin and tonic, okay, for a gin bar.
There it is. And
So
you always come together for a drink.
You almost need to work out what the client wants to happen in the room. And more likely than not, that it's always multifunctional space. So taking all those wishes, making them happen in a room, and blend a bit of color into it, so it's a cohesive design, and voila. And we've got a
and it doesn't look like a big mishmash of. Well, and so that's the thing. Now that I know your centre of gravity is probably more on residential, but of course now we are working in our residential space. We're working at home, and so there are probably people out there who that fuzziness and the blurriness of work and home life is kind of creating overwhelm, isn't it? And that you never feel you can switch off. And probably people out there are probably wondering if there's a way to, I guess, create contrast between here I am at work and then now I need to switch off and I'm at home. But then at the same time, those spaces might be multifunctional. And so you don't want it look like you've cut and dropped the office, into your home. But I guess there must be ways that you can help people, I guess, set the tone around this is how I can behave in this space. This is how this space makes me feel in the day to energize me for work. And then therefore my rest space has to make me feel the opposite to that and really chill me down. So there must be loads of demand for that coming up now.
There is, and that is where color is an absolute superhero. Color is a powerhouse of or it can be powerhouse of energy. So those would be the warmer tones, the lovely yellows and reds and oranges and the pinks, those lovely warm tones. They would help you to feel stimulated and feel more energetic and feel more creative, for example. Whereas the cooler tones on the cooler side of the color wheel, the cool purples, the greens, teals, and the blues, they have completely different effect on us. So
yeah, that's so interesting.
So if you want your living room to be just a chill zone, that you will probably highly likely to be looking at those greens, teals, blues, almost like the peacock colors. And then even though they are cool colors, you warm it up with a lot of maybe wood, brass, whatever sort of natural material you like. Whereas the study, especially if it's in a north-facing part of the house, you would really actually want to add warmth to it. So you would be looking at the warmer tones, and you would be looking at maybe a splash of orange, because orange is a great color to support creativity. So there are many ways how you work this, and color is amazing.
And I think as well, I guess if Mother Nature's been around a long time, hasn't she? And
she has.
She's never wrong. She's never wrong. And almost, I guess, she never dates. It transcends time, doesn't it? It won't go off. You won't get sick of it. And so I guess it does. It's so powerful, I think, using biophilic approach to interior design, and I just love it. And I know, I mean, I've the work I did when I was doing personal branding with House of Colour, we'd talk about people's personalities, and one of those sort of traits, and it was all based on Carl Jung's common archetypes, was around. One of them was about being quite natural, and sometimes that meant people being sort of messy, clumsy, and late, but also being outdoorsy, sporty, and kind of loving just getting out and having the freedom to go. And so it's almost like you're probably the only interior designer, one of the interior only to interior designers out there who probably you'll see outside more than inside, because you need to be outside to get the inspiration. And I guess what you do, if you can bring the energy of Mother Nature indoors, then that in the working day, for example, will probably give you more energy to get outdoors more, because at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I just want to like do nothing. But actually, we know that when we get outside, even just for a bit,
Yes,
we are much more productive and we're a much better person. We'll have better conversations. We'll produce better work. And so, I think as the world gets more pressured and we're having to spend a lot of time on our own in rooms, I guess even you want your background to say something about you, don't you? And people will be judging you, being, oh, look at her house, what's she got there, and they'll be, and so even if it's just the backdrop, but if it's probably worth, I don't know, humans don't like surprises, and that's why changing rooms makes great TV, doesn't it? But it probably doesn't make for great long-lasting interiors. So how do you work with people? How do you start a conversation? If someone's sitting there now going, oh, yeah, do you know what? Something's not right inside this space. I could just go and spend some time on Pinterest and then in B&Q and start doing something that I think might be half right. Or do they first don't spend any money, get your advice first? There are a number of ways they can sort of try.
Absolutely. I would always recommend to get in touch with an interior designer right at the beginning of any project. Yes. If you are thinking about renovating your home or extending your home or moving into a different property, get a professional opinion in first. It is great to have some sort of idea as to what you like. However, the interior designer will then help you develop it, and they will push you out of your comfort zone. You have no idea.
In a good way.
You will end up with something really quite extraordinary, something that you would never have thought is even possible. And that's the power of having a creative mind, because they introduce you to ideas that you see on Pinterest online, and you're thinking, oh, that is so pretty, but I don't know how to achieve it. So you can really either work with an interior designer right from the start to finish. As you mentioned, I'm very much about the collaborative way. I sort of design it, I create quite exciting 3D model, and it is the 3D model. So even though I showed you a piece of wallpaper, you would not really quite sure what that would look like on a wall, full-blown wall covered in that, but the model will be clear. That's clear. It doesn't lie. This is it. This is the pattern repeat. This is what it will look like. And so the service itself, one-to-one service, is really quite straightforward. However, if you feel that you like to have a go and you really enjoy doing interiors and making decisions for yourself, I host a masterclass next year in March. It's the Mother's Day weekend. So if you'd like to come over and listen to me bring about fabulous ideas on how to create interiors and what does it take, all the elements that you need to think about, the lighting, the pattern, the texture, the accessories, the styling, plants above all. I'll be talking about that in March next year.
Oh, so you can DIY it. You can do it yourself.
You can DIY it, but I will tell you how to do it.
That's good. I think this is it. So it's about ownership and then having the pride, like you say, to be proud of your house, so that you have maybe people over, or you're okay taking a selfie and not thinking, oh my God, no, not that bit. You're like, oh God. But yeah, absolutely, that's brilliant. Well, I think this session today was all about talking about how to express your authenticity indoors, to reflect your personality. And I definitely, and I know I've shown you this studio here, that it's definitely missing some nature and texture and pattern, and I wouldn't have known that until I spoke to you. And so we're going to be booking in some time in next year for you to come and do 2 bedrooms and a studio, I think, and also the downstairs. But it's one of these things where I'd rather do something properly once rather than sit there, spend loads of money, loads of time and loads of arguments, and then it still be a bit kind of underwhelming. So I think what you do is brilliant, and it's not just for rich and famous, and I think it really can help you bring out your own personality indoors so that you can feel at home in your space. And yeah, I guess it brings out the best in you. But I think we should wrap it up there, because we could go for we could go for.
Yeah,
But
me
this
too.
is, yeah, and if you're watching this back, I've got your details on here. I'm Rachel Kopinska Smith, and just to reiterate that, in the same way that Jana, I think, helps people unpack
The
and
story.
understand what it looks like in interiors, I do the same thing for businesses.
Yeah.
Because I often work with businesses who are quite business leaders who are quite passionate and purpose led, but often quite ingrained and sort of stuck in the operations of the business, and they see the value there, but they're quite frustrated then that they can't communicate a way to the outside world, a way to demonstrate the value they add and the difference they make and how passionate they are about what they do, to those who are sitting there not realizing this brilliant work's going on. So yeah, I help business owners get their authentic brand story straight, so they can target audiences who chime with them and are like them, are going to value what they do, and that you're going to love working with. So that's why I thought it was brilliant to bring you on, Jana, because I think what you do is really quite special, and I think biophilia is only going to get bigger. And
Yes.
I think you're a brilliant advocate for it. And yeah, but thanks for coming on. And yeah, brilliant. And we should do another one. I think we could go again
I would love that. Yes,
next
please.
year. See you again soon. But thanks so
Wonderful.
much, Jana. You're
Bye.
brilliant. Thank you. Bye bye.